Welcome back to Basketball Bucksline. Matt McCoy, Tony White with you. Thanks for joining us on this Monday, the Monday after Selection Sunday. The Buckeyes in what I believe is the very last first-round game. They play Friday night at 9:50 in Tulsa against Iowa State. So if they get eliminated, Tony, at least their stay in the NCAA tournament lasts all the way until deep into Friday.
By the way.
Yes.
Friday night at 9:50 in Tulsa. Boy, I bet you there's a lot going on out there. I mean, it's a hopping and popping town at 9:50 on a Friday night. Ooh, boy.
There you go. That's right.
Man.
But that is going to be, a difficult matchup for Ohio State. We were just talking about it off of the air. Iowa State had a tremendous run to win the Big 12 championship tournament. However, right before that, I don't want to make it sound like Ohio State's got no chance. They lost 11 games. They lost to Iowa during the regular season, for heaven's sake, and Ohio State beat Iowa too. They have some games where they didn't shoot the ball very well, but if they play and are shooting like they did all weekend at the Big 12 tournament, it's going to be a very difficult task. Thing is, they haven't done that all the time, and so maybe Ohio State does have a shot.
They're a Jekyll and Hyde team for sure on the offensive end. Either they make a lot of shots and they make a ton of them. I mean, a ton of them. Or they're kind of, And by the way, their defense is not overly tremendous. For example, that Iowa loss you talked about, they gave up 98 points to Iowa. Now, that was back when Iowa was a lot better than they currently are.
Right.
But still, 98 points to anybody, especially Iowa, that's a lot of points to be given up. But Iowa State is the up-tempo number one offense, in my opinion, in the Big 12. I mean, they're a team that you go out there and you say, okay, if I get a team that's on, who do I want on the offensive end from the Big 12? And it's going to be Iowa State's offense. They are very, very good offensively. They make a lot of shots. They're good at making shots. They make a ton of field goals. They have tremendous assists. I mean, this is a team that passes the ball well, shoots the ball well.
Shoot the three.
Shoot the three very well.
They start four guards, and their big I shouldn't say four guards, but perimeter players, and their big can step out and shoot too.
And they don't turn the ball over, which is impressive for a team that runs that up-tempo style, because usually you get a little bit of the double-edged sword going on when you get an up-tempo team, because now they kick the ball around a little bit more and they give you some free possessions. Iowa State, number 2 in the Big 12 in turnovers per game, only 11 turnovers a game. That's a really good number. Mm-hmm. And, think about it. Ohio State had 16 turnovers against Indiana. That's 5 extra possessions. That was what Ohio State did against Iowa State. That would be 5 extra possessions, essentially. And you can't give a great offensive team like Iowa State 5 extra possessions. That turnover number for Ohio State, I really think it's going to have to be low. They cannot go in and kick it around the 14, 15, 16 turnovers.
And one thing about Iowa State, they're not very deep. They play like 7 guys, and 5 guys play the majority of the minutes. But the guys that play are pretty solid, and they can shoot it. A couple of names you might remember: Michael Jacobson. He is a transfer from Nebraska, so you may remember that name from Ohio State playing Nebraska. He's their big, and Mariel Shayok actually used to play at Virginia, grad transferred there, and he's their best player. 18.6 points a game, shoots at 39% from three-point range, 88% from the line. Really good player.
And Wigginton
yes.
was last year. He's averaging like 14 points a game this year, but last year he was a top 5 Big 12 scorer.
Yep.
So
he had an injury issue earlier this year,
right,
but is healthy and playing well.
Right. I mean, that's a guy who can score with the best of them in the Big 12, and he's proven that over an entire year. And he's in there, and now they got Shayok, who is one of the top scorers in the Big 12. So they've got multiple weapons on this team, and they get up and down the court, and they start building that momentum because they start running you around a little bit, up and down in transition, and that ball starts to get rolling down the hill, and it's hard to stop when a team is making shots like that.
All right, let's go to the phones because Richard's been waiting for a little while. Richard, thanks for waiting. You're up on Basketball Bucksline. Are you there, Richard? I do not hear Richard. Did we lose him?
Can you hear me?
Now I hear you. Okay, there you go. What's up, Richard?
Yeah. Well, my beard hits the phone and it turns it on mute, so I gotta.
No problem.
What I was calling about, I need Tony's opinion. Those two fouls on Caleb Wesson. One where the guy was all over him like a cheap suit, and he turned his body. He didn't throw his elbow; he just turned his body to shoot, and hit the guy in the back of the head. And the other one on a transition, when the other team got the ball, he started running down court. The guy dribbling ran right into him. I mean, what is the logic behind all of this? It just seems to be that they aren't seeing the play. They're just seeing what happens in the end, and they're blaming the wrong person, in my opinion. How would you coach a kid to keep that from happening?
Well, thanks for the call, Richard. The one with the elbow, though, that's a foul on Caleb. If it's the play I'm thinking about, where they actually did initially, and they did call a foul on Matt McQuaid for holding him, but then Caleb turned with a high elbow and hit him in the head.
That was an appropriate call. I think what you're talking about is the other one where Caleb catches the ball. He's being fronted by the defender. The lob kind of goes up, leading him towards the basket. He catches. He then turns towards the basket. And there's a guy right there, and it wasn't an elbow. There's a guy like right there.
Okay.
And he turns towards the basket, and there's just like a little bit of contact. The guy falls down, and they call the offensive foul. On that one, I'm going, come on, guys. That's a terrible call because he's just catching the basketball. He's not hitting anybody. He's catching the ball. He's entitled to catch it. He's entitled to turn towards the basket. How is that a foul? If that guy's going to fall down like that, it should be a no call, or the defender should be getting the foul for simulating the charge and essentially doing the flop. So in my opinion, that should have been a no call.
I would see in both cases they're like that because, Matt, how do you coach a kid that's 6'9", 6'10", not to have high elbows? He's just tall. His elbows are going to be up there when someone that's 6'2" guarding him.
Yeah, but you can't get your elbows out. I mean, not in this day and age. Those elbows, this is not the Perry Carter day and age where you can put those elbows out and use them like swords. You got to put them down. Otherwise, you're going to get whistled, and it's going to be a flagrant.
Yeah. The other one, and Richard, I'm up against the break, but real quick, the other one I think that he mentioned was his fifth foul.
Yeah.
Where I think that was a foul.
Yeah, I agree with
it. Was an unfortunate foul. But Cassius Winston has the ball and is dribbling up the floor, and Caleb's in his way, and they're going to call it. It's unfortunate, but it's a foul.
It was a wrong place, wrong time foul, but I think it was a foul.
Yep, and sometimes they're unfortunate ones.
And by the way, everybody's got rabbit ears on when it comes to Caleb Weston. Everyone with the striped shirt is out there. If there's anything going on with him, they're looking at it hard, and their inclination is to blow the whistle and to call him for the foul because he has that reputation now. That's something he's going to really have to work on early next year to come out with a new body, a new philosophy, a new mental approach. So in the first 5-10 games, you can show the officials that he's not the guy who's getting all that foul trouble, and hopefully get past this.
Okay, another Caleb question coming up. Also, something about the NCAA tournament. A comment here from Mitch that we'll get to. Back after this, it's Basketball Bucksline. Matt McCoy, Tony White with you on News Radio 610 WTVN.
Basketball Bucksline from TNT Equipment on 610 WTVN.
Welcome back to Basketball Bucksline. Matt McCoy, Tony White with you. Buckeyes, Iowa State, NCAA Tournament, 9:50 on Friday night. The game is in Tulsa, which probably is going to be a little bit of a Iowa State home field advantage, home court advantage, I would think.
Yeah, I got to believe that.
Comment here from Aaron. Iowa State is beatable. Ohio State needs several things to go its way, however. Slowing down Iowa State's three-point shooting is the key. Wesson, if he stays out of foul trouble, can be a bit of a nightmare up front for them. I think it will be a close game.
I think all that's right, whether it's going to be a close game or not. We've been talking for a month with this Ohio State team. I don't know.
It's a mystery meat to you.
Yeah, exactly. Which team is showing up?
I would feel a lot better about the chances of it being a close game if we get this version of Keyshawn Woods to continue.
Oh, I agree with that. But, okay. What confidence do you have in Keyshawn Woods that he can consistently go out there and play 3 games in a row and play well? I mean, when's the last time he put 3 games in a row together?
I think it's more than 3. Like, he's the last couple weeks. You're right, the last 2 have been, really, really good. But It's been a couple weeks since I've been like, oh, man, Keyshawn.
Well, let's put it this way. In the Northwestern, that little horrific 3-game stretch, they desperately needed somebody to step up and make shots. And Keyshawn Woods he didn't play horrible, but he didn't do that. And so now, he stepped up, but this time he stepped up and made some shots against Indiana, and I thought played pretty well against Michigan State and made some shots again. So maybe now he's kind of gotten over that Big Ten season hump, and he's going to step up and make shots. When's the last time he did 3 in a row? November. So
yeah.
Any confidence he's going to be able to do it? No. But I agree, if he does it, Ohio State is maybe that good Ohio State team as opposed to the bad Ohio State team we've seen.
Barry on Twitter says, what is it about the Michigan State matchup that gets Caleb Wesson into all kinds of foul trouble? All 3 games he had foul issues against the Spartans.
Well, big guys who can move. I mean, Xavier Tillman can move. Nick Ward can move. They're big bodies. They're athletic. They're well coached. I mean, Tom Izzo coaches guys to play good post defense. And, those are guys that Caleb can't move around easily. And so he's got to work more smartly with his play in the post. Otherwise, he gets some foul trouble. And plus, I think the Michigan State guards are good at coming down and really kind of getting in the way of things. And so, on those challenges, offensively and defensively, when you're playing against good players, you really have to be, buckled in on your mental game, because if you're not, you'll find yourself in situations where you shouldn't be, and those tend to lead to fouls.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, because I don't know how deeply you've studied Iowa State, but are they a kind of team that could lead to foul trouble for Caleb Wesson? Are they, because bringing up the issues with Michigan State, or is this one that maybe he can avoid it like he did against Indiana?
Well, first, let's be honest. Any team can
it's
lead to
a lot of it
trouble.
has to do with Caleb,
yes.
and a lot of it has to do in Caleb's defense and how a game is called, too.
That's very true. So any team can lead Caleb Wesson into foul trouble. I will say this. I think Iowa State is a perimeter first team from the offensive end, which means that they're not going to be pounding the ball down low, going straight at Caleb Wesson like Xavier Tillman or Nick Ward are going to be doing, forcing him to play good, hard post defense every single trip down. That, I think, helps him, because now it's going to be more of a help side type of a defensive game for him, as opposed to a one-on-one post battle where he's got to use his smarts and use his feet and use his experience to stay out of foul trouble. That's not his strength right now. It will be, I think, hopefully later on in his career, but not right now. So I think it sets up, at least on paper, to be a lower risk for him for foul trouble, but that also depends on what the officials are doing.
Comment here from Diane. We should credit this Ohio State team for getting to the NCAA tournament. It felt like there was a lot of complaining about this team, but to be where they are is a significant accomplishment. I would agree with that.
I would too. I mean, no doubt. I mean,
if you would have, and I actually tweeted last night that before the season, if you'd have said in November, Tony, we talked about it. I thought like high end would be making the tournament. Yeah. If they could make the tournament, it'd be a really good year.
Yeah.
Well, they did it.
Yeah.
It's just they had the 12-1 start, and so we thought, man, are they an upper echelon Big Ten team? Well, they weren't. They were kind of what we thought they were, but they made the tournament. So do you look at this as a good year, no matter what happens Friday?
I do. I think, because we talked about this at the start of the year, all these different guys playing different roles. Everybody having to step up, every freshman having to step up and play major minutes. Andre Wesson going to be in the starting lineup, got to be consistent scorer. C.J. Jackson got to step up and be the number one scorer. So, Caleb Wesson's got to step up and be a more consistent scorer and stay out of foul trouble, which he didn't necessarily accomplish. But, everybody on this team, up and down the roster, there was not one guy on this team that was playing the same role that he was playing last year. And when you talk about college basketball and kids, in that situation, you don't know how they're going to react to new roles. And so the idea that it came together enough that Ohio State makes the NCAA tournament with that so much change, I think it's a good year, and I think whatever they do in the NCAA tournament is going to be only accentuate the positive year. Now, even if they get blown out, people are going to just focus on that. But if they go in and they play well, I think it's going to end this game for themselves and for the coaching staff. They're going to feel like they ended this season on a high note, even though with a loss. And I think that Ohio State fans should think that way too. This was a good year given where this team started.
I like Larry's confidence here. I have Ohio State in the Sweet 16. They're going to beat Iowa State and then mark it down. They will beat Houston and advance to the Sweet 16. Go Bucks.
I mean, that's bold. I like it. I like it. It's bold, but I'm telling you,
what do you think of Houston?
I like them. The American Athletic Conference.
Scummy coach, by the way.
Yeah, he's scummy coach. That's true.
Kelvin Sampson.
Yes, but there's a few scummy coaches out there that you can't discount. But I'll tell you what, he's proven that when he gets the right mix of kids, he can coach that team and coach them well. I think Houston is one of those very athletic teams that shoots the three really well. And they're a tough team. And when you watch them play, watch some of their games, you can go back and watch some of their games against UC. A tough defensive team. Boy, Houston just got in there and gutted their games out against UC. I like this Houston team. I can see Houston in the Final Four. That's how much respect I have for Houston. I think that team could get to the Final Four. They have the talent, they have the makeup to get there.
All right, we're going to look at the brackets a little bit more and talk a little bit more about Ohio State's matchup that they have coming up on Friday. Keep the tweets and the calls coming. Back after this, it is Basketball Bucksline. Matt McCoy, Tony White with you on News Radio 610 WTVN. Matt McCoy, Tony White with you. We are back next Monday, which...
Don't be a pessimist. Just say it could be.
Could be our final Basketball Bucksline of the year. But if Larry is right,
yes,
Larry who tweeted and said, mark it down, they're going to the Sweet 16, they're going to upset Iowa State and Houston, then we will have more because our last Bucksline is after their last game. So could be next week, our last one, but we shall see.
We shall see.
But question here from BJ. Of the 8 Big Ten teams in the field, which one do you think has the chance to have the best run?
Well, it's either Michigan State or Michigan, and I think Michigan State, and not just because of what they did over the weekend. I think that this team, despite my concerns about them on paper, without Josh Langford, I mean, that was a big piece for them both offensively and defensively. And to lose him, and Nick Ward's not healthy yet with his hand, and you could see that over the weekend. He was a physical presence out there, but he really wasn't productive on offense. And he's not the same player with that injury coming back from it. On paper, I go, Michigan State, boy, they seem overrated to me, and yet they keep winning.
Yep.
And, so I would have to say them. And Michigan, look, I like Michigan. I thought Michigan was going to beat Michigan State in the championship, Big Ten tournament championship game. But we've seen from Michigan over the last month and a half, 2 months, this kind of stuttering offense where they play well and then they don't. And their defense is so good that it allows them to win those games despite the fact that their offense is stuttering, except when you start playing really good teams. And I think you saw that against Michigan State in the championship game. Michigan had them down by double digits, and because their offense was working and their defense is consistently good. And then their offense started to stutter, and they couldn't make any shots. And Michigan State, over time, just overtook them and pushed past them. That, for me, has been the Michigan team for the past month and a half or two. And when you get in the NCAA tournament, you're gonna run up against teams that shoot the ball to three like you can't imagine. And I just see Michigan having that stuttering offense in a game and a team coming out hot from the three and knocking them out.
So are they the kind of team that, if all goes well, you could see them in the Final Four, but if all doesn't go well, they could be out losing to Nevada or Florida in the second round?
Yes, and because Michigan is a team where their margin for error, because their offense puts them behind the 8 ball often, their margin for error is a lot smaller. And the three-point line and the teams that make up this NCAA tournament field, by and large, are really good teams from the three-point line who are guard-oriented, can score in transition. It's a tough formula to win, to advance consistently, deeply into the NCAA tournament. if you're a team that plays great defense, has to rely on teams not being hot from the three-point line, and your offense goes and hides on regular occasions for stretches in games.
Okay, taking the Ohio State, Minnesota, and who's the other one? Are double-digit seeds. Iowa are double. So they're expected to lose in the first round. Okay, so I'm turning BJ's question around. Let's take those three out of it. Of the higher-seeded Big Ten teams, which one do you like the least?
I'm going to say Wisconsin. That 5-12 matchup against
They play Oregon. In fact, the guys in Vegas note that is the Oregon is actually favored by a point in that game.
Which tells you a lot about what Vegas feels about Wisconsin. And I have that trepidation too. I mean, Ethan Happ is a talented player who I watched in the Big Ten tournament this week, played extremely weak. I mean, his counting numbers were nice. I mean, he had plenty of points, had some rebounds, had blocked shots, but the quality, he missed so many layups, and it was a lot to do because he doesn't play strong. And, this Wisconsin team to me feels limited. When you go against an Oregon team that's on a run, I can really see Oregon winning that game in that 5-12 matchup. So and I'll tell you, Purdue, I am not in love with Purdue. I'm just not. Carson Edwards, I do not like Carson Edwards as a player. He makes my head throb. A vein sticks out of my neck every time I watch Purdue, because of his crazy shots and he takes awful shots. And when you look beyond Carson Edwards, Klein's a good player. Then you go, huh? What else?
Right.
What else? So that margin for error is way low too.
Why do they give him the greenest of green lights? Because he doesn't make those shots very often.
No,
he does sometimes.
No, but what?
But his shooting percentage is low. I agree with you. At the beginning of the year, I thought, wow, this kid's really good. But as the year goes on, I watch him. He's got a lot of 3 for 20 type of games.
Awful. But you know why? I think because Matt Painter realizes that, okay, if Carson Edwards isn't taking a shot, who's taking it?
Right.
Might as well, hey.
You need somebody to be the alpha dog, and he's it.
Right, and I don't have a lot of guys on my starting lineup 3 through 5 and off my bench, 6 through 8 who are going to come in and make a lot of those shots. So I'd rather have Carson Edwards out there taking those shots, and maybe some of them are going to be bad, but he's got a better chance of making those bad shots than the fourth guy in my starting lineup who really isn't that offensively talented.
Okay, before we get out of here, for Ohio State to pull off an upset and beat Iowa State, what if you were going to look at keys to the Buckeyes pulling this off? Where does it start? Well,
it starts with me two basics that look. These are the basics for Ohio State. When you end the NCAA tournament, you know what your weaknesses are, you know what your strengths are, and you gotta the teams that advance don't let their weaknesses overcome them. Ohio State has got to shoot the basketball, continue to shoot the basketball like I thought they did well in the Big Ten tournament. And then they've got to minimize their turnovers. They didn't do that so well in the Big Ten tournament. I mean, they averaged 15.5 turnovers a game in the Big Ten tournament. That is a ton. So those two things for Ohio State, they've got to make shots. They've got to keep those. They've got to figure out a way to get those turnovers in low double digits. And then I think you got to hope a little bit that Iowa State is not on a tear. Because I think, frankly, if Ohio State is shooting well and they keep their turnovers low and Iowa State's making shots and running in transition,
they just have more. They have more weapons.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. Yeah. I think Iowa State wins that game. I think a part of this is going to have to be Iowa State is not on their best offensive game.
Real quick, Barry on Twitter, do you expect Chris Holtmann to continue to schedule Cincinnati, Xavier, Dayton, and maybe other Ohio teams in the future? And if so, is that a good thing versus the everything to lose perspective? I know, I'm wondering if your mind has changed on this at all, because you hated the idea, but they're in the tournament for one reason. They beat Cincinnati at the beginning of the year.
I hear you. Go find a team outside the state of Ohio that looks like Cincinnati and play them in your first game. How about that?
Okay.
Don't in the poker vernacular.
You don't
put
like
all
it.
your chips in the middle.
You don't like it.
No, because it's not a loss. That it's not just a regular loss. I mean, if you go play Louisville in your opening game, okay, go play Louisville, or go play some team Gonzaga Do that. Go play on a neutral court and do something like that, or go to their home gym and play them. Okay, great. If you win that game, it's a terrific win. If you lose that game, nobody's going to throw rocks at you. But if you lose to an in-state team like UC and Xavier and Dayton and those teams, now those teams are going to use those losses against you in recruiting wars, and you're going to lose out potentially on some Ohio kids because they're going to believe the snake oil that their schools, Xavier, UC, and Dayton, are now better than Ohio State because they beat you. Why even allow that? Why even open that door?
See, I think those days are gone.
Oh, come on.
I don't think that matters. I don't think they're recruiting head-to-head against each other that much. They are some.
Oh, it happens. Absolutely happens.
And plus, why be afraid? They beat them. See, they went in there and they beat them.
What I said at the time, a retrospective win is not changing my mind. It's still a
you
lousy
did say that.
Decision.
I give you a ton of credit for standing by your guns.
I mean, if you could walk out on the ledge of your building 40 stories up and walk around and come back in the window, was it a good decision if you're successful? No. It was still a bad decision even though you're still alive.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll hope that the Buckeyes are still alive next week. It's going to take some significant work. By the way, those UC Bearcats are playing in Columbus. Are they going to take Iowa out?
I think they're going to crush Iowa.
I kind of do, too. Iowa's going the wrong direction right now.
And all those UC fans.
Yes. Anyway, great show. Thanks, everybody, for all the comments. Buckeyes, Iowa State. It is at 9:50 on Friday night. We'll be back to recap that and hopefully another game and hopefully look forward to the Sweet 16. We'll see. But we're back next week on Basketball Bucksline right here on News Radio 610 WTVN.